Hello everyone, welcome back. So Flutter 3.27 was just released. Let's go through the blog post. Let's dive into Flutter 3.27. This release is brimming with enhancement and features focused on refining your development experience and boosting your app's performance. We have got updates across the framework, engine and ecosystem, including progress with Impeller and improvements to Cupertino widget. Plus, we are introducing new features in DevTools, making it easier than ever to manage your Flutter projects with over 1,400 commits from 187 contributors, including 49 first-time contributors. Flutter 3.27 is a testament to the incredible energy and collaboration of the Flutter community. Let's explore what's new. Framework Cupertino updates. This release includes high fidelity updates to Cupertino checkbox and Cupertino radio, featuring updates to size, color, stroke width and behaviors when pressed. There have also been large customizability updates to Cupertino radio, Cupertino checkbox and Cupertino switch, adding properties like mouse cursor, semantic label, thumb images and fill colors. Some properties like the inactive color of Cupertino checkbox were deprecated, while others like the track color of Cupertino switch were renamed. These changes bring these widgets up to feature parity with their material counterparts. Cupertino segmenting sliding segmented control sees some fidelity updates to its thumb radius, separator height, padding, shadows and thumb scale alignment. It also now supports disabling individual segments and proportional layout based on segment content. Thanks to an amazing contribution from community member Velos, both Cupertino's navigation bar and Cupertino's sliver navigation bar background are now transparent until content is scrolled under them. So this allows the sliver navigation bar to have the same color as its background in its expanded state, but a different customizable color in its collapsed state, and the ability to blur between both colors on scroll. Thanks to an amazing contribution from community member Kerberg, you can now apply the iOS 15 plus button style using the new Cupertino button size enum with the new size style property in Cupertino button. Use the new Cupertino.tinted constructor to make buttons with a translucent background. Cupertino button also now has a new long press handler and allows performing action through keyboard shortcuts. Cupertino picker and Cupertino date picker will now scroll to tapped items. Cupertino dialog now supports the tap slide gesture, and Cupertino action sheet sees some high fidelity updates, including adjusting padding, font size across all system text size settings and supporting haptic feedback when sliding over buttons. Other changes include Cupertino context menu now supporting scrolling if its action overflow the screen, Cupertino date picker no longer clipping long contents in its column, and Cupertino magnifier supporting zoom effects by providing a magnification scale. Normalizing material theming. In this release, card theme, dialog theme and tab bar theme have been refactored to make them conform to Flutter's conventions for component themes. Card theme data, dialog theme data and tab bar theme data were added to define overrides for the defaults of the component visual properties. Future releases will continue to normalize component themes like this for more consistent theming experience in the material library. More features for Carousel view. This release introduces Carousel view.weighted, enabling more dynamic layouts within Carousel. By adjusting the flex weights parameter in the constructor, you can achieve a variety of item layouts. For instance, 321 creates a multi browse layout, produces a hero layout, and 171 yields a centered hero layout. These values represent the relative weight each item occupies within the Carousel view and can be customized to suit user specific needs. More in material, this release includes a number of small feature enhancement and bug fixes. Some enhancement examples: segmented button now has a direction property so items can be aligned vertically. More icon related properties are added to the style from method for button style button classes. Elevated button, filled button, outline button, text button, menu button and sub menu button to allow more customization. Some bug fixes example: the icon size and the color defaults for button style button classes are aligned with material 3 specification. The app bar scroll under behavior now correctly persist when the navigation drawer opens, matching the native Android experience. Menu anchor is further improved with focus fixes, and several drop-down menu issues, including the scrolling issue within nested scrollables and filter mechanism behavior, have been resolved. Mixing route transitions. Model routes are now more flexible when the previous and new routes have different page transition. When a new route enters the screen, sometimes they need the previous existing route to play a certain transition to sync up with the entrance transition of the new route. Now model routes can provide exit transition builder to each other, so the enter and exit transition always sync up. This allows pages to have multiple route transition options on one page using Flutter's navigation and router. Text selection improvement. For Flutter selection area now supports shift plus click gesture to move the extent of the selection to the clicked position on Linux, Mac OS and Windows. You can now also clear the selection under a selection area and selection region through the method clear selection on selection region state. Selectable region state. Selectable region state is also now accessible through selection area by providing it a global key and accessing its selection area state.selectable region. We also resolved some issues with render paragraph, so selecting text under a selection area or selectable region still works as expected after resizing the window and when clicking or tapping outside of the actual text. Row and column spacing. This release also features a new convenience to using rows and column spacing. This double parameter will apply a fixed amount of pixels to offset children of rows and columns from each other, reducing the previous amount of code required to do so. So yeah, something like this. Engine. Impeller on Android. We are pleased to share that Impeller is now the default rendering engine on modern Android devices. While Impeller on these devices has been in preview since Flutter 3.16 stable release in November 2023, since then we have made large improvements to both performance and fidelity based on user feedback. On older Android devices and devices without Vulkan support, Skia rendering engine will be used as before. While we believe the Impeller's performance and fidelity are both high quality, users are able to opt out and return to the legacy Skia renderer by passing no enable impeller to the Flutter command line tool or by placing the following inside your Android manifest.xml file. Going forward, we will continue to make improvements to Impeller's performance and fidelity on Android. Additionally, we intend to make Impeller's OpenGL backend production ready to remove Skia fallback. As during the preview period, we request that Flutter developers upgrade to the latest stable version and file issues about any shortcomings noticed when Impeller is enabled. Feedback continues to be invaluable to ensuring that Impeller is successful on Android. The Android hardware ecosystem is much more diverse than the iOS ecosystem. For that reason, the most helpful feedback about Impeller should include detailed information about specific device and Android version where issues occurred. Improvements on iOS device. In previous versions of Flutter, user may have experienced an issue in which applications on iOS device waited several milliseconds per frame on compositor back pressure. This back pressure would be observed as delays in the beginning of the raster workload. In many circumstances, this delay caused missed frames and janks. This effect was especially noticeable on high frame rate devices with a smaller frame time budget. In this release, open source contributor Knob added a new implementation of metal rendering surface that allows raster workload to begin more consistently after the UI workload completes. This means that user will observe that overall frame times are more stable as there is less waiting on the iOS system compositor. In particular, Flutter will now much more consistently hit 120 Hz on high frame rate devices. In our benchmark, we have observed this improvement in a large reduction in average frame rasterization time across many scenarios. Framework wide gamut colors. Flutter now supports defining UI colors with colors in the display P3 color space to take full advantage of displays on iOS device. It also has a wider bit depth to support more colors in sRGB and display P3 color spaces. This change has led to the deprecation of some color methods. More information can be found in breaking change notice. Web improvements. This release brings a variety of improvements to Flutter Web, focusing on performance, efficiency and accessibility. Image decoding in Safari and Firefox is now done using an IMG element instead of WebAssembly codecs for all static images. This removes jank related to image decoding and reduces WASM memory usage. Platform views were optimized to reduce the number of canvas overlay, improving rendering efficiency. All plugins and packages developed by the Flutter team are now compatible with WebAssembly. Multiple accessibility fixes were implemented for heading, dialogues, passwords, iOS keyboard links and scrollables. A number of rendering bugs were fixed in the Canvas kit and escapism renderer, including image filters, clipping and memory usage of paint objects. Improved drag scrolling in multi-view mode. iOS Swift Package Manager. Now coming back to Swift Package Manager, if you don't know, it is kind of like CocoaPods. Whenever you want to add some external dependency, we can use Swift Package Manager. It is much more easier. You just have to go to Xcode, just click on File, Add Package Dependency, and just paste the GitHub URL of the dependency you want to add. That's it. So I think it is much more better. So Flutter is migrating to Swift Package Manager. This brings several benefits: access to the Swift package ecosystem. Flutter plugins will be able to leverage the growing ecosystem of Swift packages. Simple Flutter installation. Swift Package Manager is bundled with Xcode. In future, you won't need to install Ruby and CocoaPods to use Flutter for Apple's platform. Previously, Swift Package Manager support was only available on Flutter's main channel. We are pleased to announce that the Swift Package Manager feature is now available on the beta and stable channels too. For now, the Swift Package Manager feature is off by default. While we iron out the kinks, plugin authors are encouraged to add support for Swift Package Manager to your plugin. Many more popular plugins, including Firebase Plus plugins and more, have already migrated to Swift Package Manager. Pub.dev now checks plugins for Swift Package Manager compatibility. In the future, packages that are incompatible will not receive full package scores. If you have feedback on Flutter support for Swift Package Manager, please file an issue. Android H2H by default on device running Android 15 plus, your app will use H2H mode and run in full screen. For more details on the change and how you can opt out of this behavior, see the guide. Support for freeform. Android freeform allows you to resize apps windows and has been available as a developer option. Flutter Safe Area and Media Query have been updated to handle hardware cutouts with a freeform window, which moves into an hardware cutout. Kotlin build script support and declarative plugin migration. Developers can now use build.gradle.kts files. Flutter tooling now supports Kotlin build files. If you encounter a place where we don't support Kotlin, please file a bug. Groovy remains a supported Gradle language. Flutter 3.27 is the latest release that will support Gradle's legacy apply script method. See migration docs. Most apps will need to manually migrate. Newly created apps will use Kotlin build files. Moving to declarative inclusion of the Flutter Gradle plugin helps Flutter migrate to Kotlin build files with better type safety and easier to maintain unit tests for build code. It is also a part of a broader effort to bring more stability across Android tooling version. Ecosystem. Flutter and Dart Package Ecosystem Summit USA 2024. As part of Flutter Con USA 2024 in September, we held a Flutter and Dart Package Ecosystem Summit. This was second in-person summit that followed on from the summit at FlutterCon Europe in July 2024 and the first virtual summit we held in August 2023. See a summary of takeaways from the discussion session here. The summit brought together package authors and maintainers for unconference style sessions on the following topics: adding support for Swift Package Manager, past, present and future of native interop, sustainable package maintenance models. We are looking forward to holding more of this summit going forward in partnership with the community. Package download counts on pub.dev. We launched download count metrics on pub.dev, providing more precise popularity metrics on pub.dev has been the most requested feature in the site's issue tracker for a long time. Now you can view a package. You will see a 30-day download count replacing the former popularity score. Additionally, we added an interactive sparkline chart showing weekly download activity over time. This chart helps developer and package author uncover trends in package usage. For example, it could be an indicator that a new release has caused a spike in usage or that a package is gaining or losing popularity. A download is registered each time the package is downloaded from pub.dev. For example, when you run flutter pub get and the package isn't already in your pub cache, the download count numbers presented are raw download counts and reflect usage from CI system, package analysis, human pub client users and more. So yeah, they have added all this stuff. Pub workspace, we are launching pub workspace with Dart 3.6 to support the development of multiple related packages in one monorepo. By defining a root pub spec that references the other packages in the repository, running pub get anywhere in the repository will result in a shared resolution for all the packages. This ensures that all packages are developed with consistent set of dependencies. The shared resolution is also picked up by the analyzer, which now only has to keep track of a single analysis context for the entire workspace, potentially resulting in significant reduction in memory usage when opening the company repository in your IDE. Automated publishing of Flutter packages from GitHub. We have extended the setup Dart publish GitHub action workflow to also allow automated publishing of Flutter packages to pub.dev, making it easier to contribute to the pub ecosystem in a verifiable manner. Launch of interactive ad plugins. I think this is huge. We launched an interactive media ads IMA Flutter plugin that makes it easy to integrate multimedia ads into iOS and Android apps built with Flutter. The IMA plugin can request ads from any vast compliant ad server and manage ad playback in your apps. Ad plays in a separate video player position on top of app contents video player. The current supported features are client-side APIs for linear in-stream videos, ad request, vast and vvamp, single and podded requests, skippable ads, in-app purchase, iOS and macOS plugin updates. We have added StoreKit to support to the in-app purchase StoreKit package to migrate off StoreKit 1 APIs which were deprecated in iOS 18. This allows us to add new StoreKit 2 features like better subscription management in the future. Stay tuned for an upcoming migration guide to help you transition to the newer StoreKit 2 functionality. This is a non-breaking change, so you can migrate whenever you wish. Flutter DevTools updates. This release includes new feature overall improvements to robustness and polish, as well as some exciting new experimental features that you can enable from DevTools. See the previews and experimental features section below for more information on this. Firstly, we added support for validating iOS dev links, deep link settings in the Flutter deep link tool. You can now validate deep link for both Android and iOS. Next, we added some improvements to the workflow of working with offline data. Sometimes it is necessary to export the data that you are viewing in DevTools for future use or for loading into another tool. This release adds support for networking data as a .har file and for loading memory snapshot into DevTools for viewing when DevTools is not connected to a running app. Additionally, if you are in the middle of debugging a memory issue with DevTools and lost your memory tool data because your app crashed, perhaps due to the very OOM out of memory issue you are trying to debug, we feel your frustration. We have fixed this UX pain point by allowing you to continue viewing the most recent memory tool data in DevTools even after an app disconnects. There are just few highlights from this release. To learn more about the updates included, check out the release notes for DevTools. Previews and experimental features to try. Flutter DevTools new Flutter Inspector and experimental features to try. The Flutter Inspector has undergone some major changes to improve usability and enhance your UI debugging journey. Enable the new Flutter new inspector by toggling the new inspector settings. A few of the changes include a condensed widget tree that makes it easier to view deeply nested Flutter widgets tree. This is especially helpful when using Flutter Inspector from inside your IDE, where horizontal screen space is limited. An option to toggle whether implementation widgets should be included in the widget tree. Implementation widgets are widgets that you didn't include in your app code, but rather they were added to the widget tree by the Flutter framework or other packages. A detailed view for the section widget that shows an inline layout viewer widget and render object properties, and a flex layout explorer for flex widgets and their children. More improvements are coming soon of the new inspector, but these changes are ready for you to try out. Please file any issues you encounter so that we can fix them before enabling the new inspector by default. Flutter DevTools try with WebAssembly. Enable the WebAssembly feature in DevTools settings to load the Wasm compiled DevTools web app. This should yield better performance than the default JS compiled version of DevTools. This feature is experimental, so please file any issues you encounter with Wasm build. Breaking changes and deprecation. Material Design 3 tokens. The latest Material Design 3 tokens version 6.1 have been applied to the Flutter material library. The Material Design tokens updated the mapping of 4 color roles in light mode only to be more visually appealing while retaining accessible contrast. We did not identify any breakage in our testing of this change, which applies to this color properties on primary container, primary 10 to primary 30, on secondary 10 to secondary 30, on tertiary container, tertiary 10 to tertiary 30, on error container, error 10 to error 30. This affect the widgets that use these roles as their default values. The border colors of chip, action chip, choice chip, filter chip, and input chip was updated from color scheme.outline to color scheme.outline variant. This improves the visual hierarchy between chips and button. Objective-C iOS project. Since Flutter 1.9.1 released in 2019, new iOS projects used Swift by default. Creating a new Objective-C iOS project is now deprecated, and the Flutter create iOS language OBJC flag will be removed in future version of Flutter. You will still be able to open your Xcode project and add Objective-C files, including for plugins. Java continues to be supported for Android apps with Flutter create Android language Java flag. Deep link default flag. The default language for Flutter's deep linking flag has changed from false to true, meaning deep link is now opt-in by default. If you are using Flutter's default deep linking setup, there is no need to manually set the flag to true anymore. However, if you are using third-party plugins for deep links such as Firebase dynamic links, Unilinks, or app links, this update will introduce a breaking change. In this case, you will need to manually reset the Flutter deep linking flag to false. For more detail, refer to the design document. Deprecating support for older SDKs in IDE. To ensure we can continue to deliver a higher quality developer experience, we are making a change to our IDE plugin support, as Dart and Flutter plugins for VS Code and IntelliJ has evolved. Supporting older Dart SDK version has become increasingly challenging. Starting with release of Dart 3.6, we will deprecate support for Dart SDK versions older than 3.0. This means that while the tools may still function with the older SDK, we will no longer provide official support or fixes for issues specific to this version. With release of Dart 3.7, we will remove support for this older SDK version entirely. Future releases of these plugins may not be compatible with these versions. What does this mean for you? If you are using an older Dart SDK, we encourage you to upgrade to version 3.0 or later to continue receiving supports and updates. This change affects less than 1% of our user, and it will allow us to focus on delivering the best possible experience for the vast majority of developers. Closing, for all breaking changes in the release, see the full list of migration guidelines. As always, many thanks to the community for contributing. This helps us to identify breaking changes. To learn more, check out Flutter's breaking change policy. A huge thanks to the entire Flutter community for making this release possible. Your contribution, feedback, and enthusiasm are what drive Flutter forward. We are incredibly excited about the future of Flutter and can't wait to see the amazing apps you build with Flutter 3.27. For a complete rundown of all the changes, check out the detailed release notes and changelog. Ready to experience the latest and greatest? Simply run Flutter upgrade and start building. So yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching. Bye.